a lot of people you know who you worked with. I talked to Ellie.
Ellie Greenwich.
Ellie Greenwich in New York. I've been with Jeff Barry. With,
Oh, yes.
and the whole Kirshner alumni.
Oh, yes.
Man, Barry Mann, Cynthia Ross. When did you come out to California?
How's Barry? All right.
This isn't for the interview. I just wondered when you moved out here because everybody.
I came out here by accident. I came out here about 3 years ago. Only because my kids had moved here. I never liked L.A. Never got along with that. I thought it was an imitation of Manhattan. But when I came down here to see my kids, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with Costa Mesa, Corona del Mar, Newport Beach, the people. I said, listen, I'm going to get out of Brooklyn for a while. So that's why I came here.
But I did talk to Barry.
How's he doing with Cynthia?
Well, they have a relationship that is a great treatment for a motion picture or an ongoing miniseries.
That's a soap opera.
It is. And he tells me how he is. He's whacked up passively, and she's whacked up aggressively. And here I'm starting to talk to. I don't know Barry that well. I know him. I don't know you very well. I just met him, but I don't know him that well. He opened up with me into such a psychiatric session at my house.
Did he really?
I couldn't believe it. He's telling me the innermost secrets of their life together. Jesus Christ.
No.
He is really nasty.
Is he?
It's really sad to do that.
A lot of people have gone down the tubes with that. When I met Barry, is this off the record?
What?
This off the record? Just threw it out. Just threw it out.
Well, I'd just like to talk for a while, if you don't mind, and we'll just ramble. We'll get a copy of the tape, send it to Bob. There's nothing. So I've done, as I said, 85 interviews from Benny Goodman and Lionel Hampton to Linda Ronstadt and others. The name, did Ellie and Jeff really give you that name?
Jeff did.
Jeff did? Why?
The obvious reason. Because I wouldn't show up and nobody knew where the hell I was.
Was this something that was always part of George Morton?
No. See, my success in the music industry was an accident. I had no desire to be in the music industry.
What did you want to do?
I had no idea at that time. I was 19 years old. I had no idea. I was floating around. What happened was because I went to see Ellie Greenwich, who was a high school friend of mine. And when I went to see Ellie Greenwich, it was because another friend of mine had said to me, would you believe that Ellie Greenwich wrote hit songs? I said, what hit songs? And he said, the Do Run Run, Be My Baby. And I said, you gotta be kidding. You put me on? I thought it was a joke. He said, no. We got back into New York. I now I go to a record store and I go through the records and I see her name on it. Now I gotta feel important.
You got a buck in your pocket, yeah?
I said, look, I got $1 to my name. Thank you very much. And I called her up and I said, Ellie, I'm coming into New York. And she said, well, whenever you show up, please come in. And I did. And I said, well, it just so happens I'm coming to New York tomorrow.
But you were living on the island.
On Long Island at the time. I showed up at the office. I met Ellie. I had a good time about it, but there was a guy sitting at the piano who would never even turn around and look at me. He'd keep tinkling on the piano. Turned out to be Jeff Barry. And in a way, he did me a favor. He insulted me so bad by his attitude that I told him, when he said to me, well, what do you do? I said, I write songs. He said, what kind? And I said, hit songs. And he said, when can you bring me one? I said, when would you like it? He said, how about next Tuesday? Simple as that.
Now, what happened?
I told a lot of lies.
And did I understand that one lie led to another lie led to another lie?
Oh, yes.
What was the sequence of events with that? Come on, this is hilarious. You had to get a studio to get a da-da-da-da-da.
Oh, yeah, one step at a time.
What happened?
Well, I called up a friend of mine. He was involved with bands and musicians and people like that. George Sturman. Good guy. I said, George, listen, I got a record company. They want to hear my songs. I need a band. He said, well, okay, I'll put 4 or 5 guys together. I said, let me get back to you. I said, okay. Now I call up another guy, Joe Monaco, who owned a studio in Hicksville, Long Island, which was nothing more than a basement studio. It was nothing. It was 2-track. It was nothing. That's all I knew. I said, Joey, listen, I got a band. I got a record company. I need a studio. He said, you got it. Now I'm sitting there. I said, now I need a group. So I went in, some friends told me about these 3 girls singing Queens, Long Island. And I went in to see the girls, and we sat in the dressing room afterwards, and I said, listen, I got a band, I got a studio, I got a record company. All I need now is a group. And they said, sure, we'll sing on that. We'll go with that. I said, all right, Sunday afternoon, 2 o'clock. On the way over to the studio, it dawned on me, I had everything going, but I didn't have a song.
Get you a whole setup.
I didn't have a damn song. I had to pull the car over. I sit down, South Oyster Bay Road, I'll never forget this. I'm sitting there going, and I started to write the song. So when I came into the studio, I had to now walk down into the studio, and when people were going, you're late, you're late, you're late, I had to go, whoa, 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 don't talk to me. Don't talk. Piano, you play this. Goes like this. Bum, bum, bum. And I had to go through that whole thing and teach everybody the songs first. Now, when I brought it back to Jeff and everything, to me, now you got to understand, at that moment in my life, to me, it was still just a run. It was just a joke. It was just something to do. When I brought it in to Jeff Barry, who at that moment, me and Jeff had no love for one another, although today we have great love for one another. When I brought it into Jeff, he played it once. He said, can I play it again? I said, certainly. He played it again. He said, can I play it one more time? Now I get nervous. Something wrong here. He said, can I play it for somebody else? I said, certainly. He disappeared. Me and Ellie stayed in the room. We talked. And a man opened up the door, stuck his head through, said, you write this? I said, yes. He said, do you make this record? I said, yes. He said, would you like to work for me? I said, yeah, no way. He said, you're going to do whatever you want to do on the beach? I don't give a damn. We can do it in Mexico, you can do it in Canada, you can do whatever you want to do. I said, how much you give me? He said, $350 a week. Now, I'm a kid from no place. $350 a week was a lot of money at that time. I said, okay, I'll take the job. And he said, by the way, the record's coming out. I said, the one I just made? He said, yes, it'll be out in 3 weeks. It came out in 3 weeks. And went #1.
Who was this guy?
Jerry Leiber. One blue eye, one brown eye. Yeah. I love that man. I love that man.
Who would you listen to when, before you wrote this song? Was it Presley, Ray Charles, or who would?
Bessie Smith. Nina Simone.
A lot of blues.
Billie Holiday, but I know that Billie had learned everything she knows from Bessie Smith. That was an accident. That's another story. That's something that happened to me at 14 years old. That's another story.
But there was no pop music influence that...
No.
You write this Walking in the Sand. How do you even know how to structure
I
a
don't.
song?
I don't.
You have no background to do this at all, and all of a sudden came up this...
Yeah, it's always been that way. Although I've got to confess. I must confess something. Once upon a time, when I was about 15 years old, if you must know the answer, you want to know the answer to that? The other songs I have no answer for, but the first song I do have an answer for. Remember Walking in the Sand, I have an answer for. That being that once upon a time, I was into jazz, and I was the kind of guy who sipped Thunderbird and sit in the back of cars and sleep in them. I was 14, 15 years old. I had no right to be driving cars. And there was a disc jockey in New York called Symphony Sid. All right. Now, Symphony Sid used to accept phone calls, requests, if you remember. And I would call him up maybe once, twice a week and request that the MJQ would play, trying to think of the title of the song. Stretch. Now the opening lines to that song was, if you remember, the song was bum 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 bum. All right. Several years later, when I remember walking in the sand, not thinking about that, and it took me many years to put this together. But the opening line to Remember Walking in the Sand was bum bum bum.
Was it subconscious?
Yes.
It had been. It's planted back there.
It was
Now
planted.
it
For
came.
that song, yes. I put it in a different tempo, a different way, but the kick line to Remember Walking in the Sand was boom, boom, boom. And to the sketch was boom, boom, boom,
Yeah, that
boom,
first line
boom,
set it up.
boom, 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 boom.
After the song
Whatever that
hits
means.
now,
Yep.
after the song hits now, now you've got back at Jeff Barry, but music business is pretty good to you at this point?
No.
You want to forward?
Explain your question.
Well, I mean, you now have decided this is a career for you?
Have I decided this is a career for me?
$350 a week, and is this what you want to do for the rest of your life?
Oh, no. At that point in my life, it was just a game. No.
And so what was going to be? More records with the Shangri-Las? Anything else we were looking to do?
Yeah, a whole bunch of things.
What did you want to do back then?
Back then, I wanted to do what most people are doing today. I tried to talk Jerry Leiber and George Goldner and a few others into moving into video. They didn't believe in video. I tried to talk them into the participation between one artist from one label to another artist to another label. They didn't believe in that. They had the feeling that you should stick strictly with the one artist you're successful with and live your whole life around that. Which is why I left Jerry and Mike.
Well, how did Redbird, before you left, how did Redbird get started?
Again, now we're talking Phil Spector.
Yeah, that's, when does he come into your life?
Phil Spector came into the life because, well, he doesn't come into my life.
When did you bump into Phil Spector? Meet him?
Casually.
He doesn't do very much casually.
Well, neither do I. I just bought a pack, I'm sorry. Phil has never been known to do anything casually. I love the man. He doesn't like me, but I love him.
Well, how was he what was his part in the Redbird situation?
All right, when Phil decided to leave Redbird, he was involved with Redbird,
That was before
with
you
Jeff
got
and
there.
Ellie, before I got there. Now here's what becomes very awkward and why there might be, not that he lives day and night with this, I'm sure it doesn't keep him awake at nights, but the truth is that when Phil, he had cut a couple of records for Redbird. Obviously, it had great success prior to that. He knocks me out with the things that he said. Phil decided to leave and go to California and open up his own company. Thus, he had to say to Jerry and Mike and other people, George Goldner, goodbye, I'm taking a walk, you're on your own. And he made a mistake. He said, walking out the door without me, you might as well piss in the wind. That was on a Monday. It was Tuesday that I walked through the door.
mean with the first episode?
Yes.
Jeff Beck?
Yeah.
Didn't that lighter work?
No. So for that reason, he's never been able to understand that. All of a sudden, Shadow came along,
And the label
took that
over.
record company right off the ground.
Were
Took off.
you made a partner in the record company right away?
No.
You were the $350 a week.
Yeah.
guy
For 1
working
year.
And in that year, you cut some other Shangri-La records. Is that
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then Redbird became. Who were the principals in Redbird?
Jerry Leiber, Mike Stoller, George Goldner.
And you then became after a year.
I left.
Oh, you never were you a partner in it at all? Just producing records. What we've had a lot of people talk about Leiber and Stoller. How did you view them? They were just before you guys.
You asking me business or personally?
Either one.
Jerry Leiber, Mike Stoller? Well, I'll say to you what I've said to everybody else. As far as I'm concerned, Jerry Leiber and Mike Stoller are the best songwriters in the world. That's my opinion. I might be wrong.
Well, it's shared by a lot of people.
Yeah. To me, they're devastating. Devastating. And yet, but then again, I've had the opportunity to hear things that they've written that never even got into the studio. Absolutely devastating. God, if I had their talent. Jeez.
I emceed a dinner for them last fall. They were being honored in New York.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was. I know them very well.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that.
No, and in business, Lester Sill will tell you how tough they are. Oh yeah, murder business.
Murder. They'll ignore business. They'll pass it off to everybody else. But please tell these gentlemen, they don't know. In my opinion, Jerry Leiber and Mike Stoller are the greatest songwriters. I didn't know they had a dinner.
Oh yeah, they had a dinner. American Jewish Congress honored them. It was a cultural award dinner. It was terrific because who turned out? I mean, Ahmed and the establishment turned out. These were two guys who lived in Los Angeles. Both originally came from Los Angeles. Teenagers, 18, 19 years old.
I'm gonna kick it at
Were
us.
two Jewish kids could capture the feeling of a street black sound.
Unreal.
The word.
If Jerry ever told you the story about me and Bette Midler.
No.
Okay. But he sat there at the piano and wrote a song called Nigga Nigga, which he can get away with writing.
He could get away with it.
Yeah.
The most, and then he wrote a song. I'm sorry, in my opinion, the greatest song ever to be sung by Johnny Mathis. I'm sorry, you can argue with me upside down on this, and I never knew it was Jerry's song, Jerry and Mike's song. He wrote a song called "Open Fire, Two Guitars," which was the title album
Title of an album.
for Johnny Mathis, which would absolutely break your heart. Done by Tony Mottola, Al Caiola, and that was it. And Johnny
And
Mathis.
do you know what other song they wrote? Peggy Lee. Is that?
Oh
what there
yeah,
is?
I was there when they did it. And there he is, and there's Jerry with his big cigar hanging out of his mouth, holding Peggy Lee, drunk out of his mind, going through the whole goddamn song up in her apartment. I said, look,
Amazing writers. You are talking about two guys. When you talk
Devastating.
you talk to Shadow, you talk to Jeff Barry, Ellie Grant.
no, anybody.
They step back and they say, "This,
Jerry and Mike
this was something else."
are the best.
I didn't know what you were going to say.
Are the best.
Because every other songwriter in the last 30 years just stands back and says, "Wow." And I've talked to guys who hate rock and roll music and this thing, band leaders who say, "Boy, those songs were marvelous songs."
When you look, staring at an open fire, look, watching flames as they leap higher brings to mind forgotten dreams. What he has done, what they've done with music, it's just,
Shadow, was there anybody else you produced during this period of Redbird? Did you do the Chapel of Love? The Dixie Cup?
no, that's the funny part about it. That's another funny part about it. All right, when the breakup went down, when George Goldner walked into the organization, at the same time that Spector was getting ready to leave, Spector left behind 27 tapes. And he said, you can pick any one of these tapes you would like. Now, It was at the same time I'm walking through the door. So Goldner, we went up to Syracuse and we hung out with his family and did a lot. That's another
I
story.
gotta hear your
That's another.
some viewpoints on George Goldner.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
One of a kind.
Are you kidding? To me, the master of rock and roll.
He used to
In my
play
opinion.
records. He was the smartest.
In my opinion.
Yeah. I'd like to hear you just some comments.
All right. Anyhow, there was some 27 tapes left behind by Spector because that was part of his way out. The one tape Spector called up about and said he wanted back was Chapel of Love. That was his. And Spector was about to turn it up. I mean, Goldner was about to turn it over. Goldner, sitting in Syracuse, said, okay, but that night, as we're sitting around the table, I hadn't heard. I just met his kids. I'm sitting in Syracuse. He played that tape.
The Chapel Up.
And I said, do not release that tape. Don't give it back. And he said to me, get a new kid on the block. I said, that's why I'm telling you. I'm a buyer. I'm a buyer. I'm not a salesman. I'm a buyer. I like that one. That's the one he refused to give back to Spector. And released that first.
Did Phil make that record?
Yes.
Then there were other acts, the Jelly Beans, Trade Winds.
Nothing to do with me.
You had nothing to do with it. You were just doing the Shangri-Las. How was it working with those girls? They were kind of...
Shangri-Las?
Yeah. They were interesting, too.
You could ask anybody you want in the business about that. They'll answer that question. I don't have to answer that. Interesting.
Well, I'm interested. You're the one who was closest to them.
Shangri-Las were, at the time, I guess, and still are, very tough ladies. Street ladies. Street fighters. They came out of Cambria Heights. Very, very pretty, tough ladies. Two of them pretty. Two of them handsome.
They talented.
Were they talented? No. But they had a sound. No one even to this day has been able to duplicate Mary Weiss's sound. And there's not a hell of a lot to say about that. They were tough ladies.
Did they have much input in their records, or did they get in the way?
They got in the way.
With everybody?
No.
With the writers and the...
No. I was the writer.
Yeah.
I was the producer. Did they get in the way with other people? Oh, yes. Yes.
I read about a big battle Ellie Greenwich had one time.
Tell me what you read. I'll tell you if it's
In
true.
the ladies' room of the Brill Building.
Uh-huh.
Couldn't stand the way they behaved, and told them they needed each other and they better straighten them out. Any truth to that?
I don't know. You'll have to ask them.
They had a run for about 3 or 4 years
Yeah.
with some hit records. They
Yeah.
worked a lot too. Didn't
Shangri-Las?
they? Shangri-Las, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have anything to do with their careers other than the recording?
No. No.
Don't sound like it was the happiest relationship.
No, it was a great time. Oh, great time. I saw Mary at the opening of Leader of the Pack last year. It was a great time.
You just flag me down when you want to order.
I wanted to do other things. What had happened was when I left Redbird, the girls refused to go into the studio unless I was there. Come on, we're talking about crazy times, all right? We're talking about a woman standing on the other side of the room saying, I can't hear you, because she didn't want to sing. We're talking about a guy like me who gets crazy and picks up a chair and breaks down all the windows in the studio and says, can you hear me now? To which point she went, okay, I'll say, A lot of crazy times. They were crazy ladies. And the odd part about it, which I never knew at that time, was when it was all over with, when I walked away from Redbird and the girls came with me to Mercury, that's why I bought all the tapes. Because Jerry and Mike didn't have much of a choice at that point. The girls wouldn't go into the studio. They're sitting there going, I got a sore throat. I got sick. So Jerry and Mike and George Goldner came to me and said, we got no use with this group. You want to buy the group? So I bought the group and took them to Mercury.
Why did you leave Redbird?
No reason to stay. Better things to do. There's no reason to stay.
Tell me about George Goldner.
Oh, God almighty. What do you want to hear?
Just, things you saw him do, where you rate him in the business.
George Goldner. George Goldner. My God, you're talking now. You're talking about a book unto its own. He was the best. Crazy. Semi-talented in the music world, but multi-talented in the living world. He did things I've never seen any man do. It's just marvelous. I mean, come on. How do you take a man who brings a guy out of Chicago, brings him in, and the man says, George, I'll come to New York under one condition. George said, what's that? He said, you gotta give me a bottle of vodka every morning. I said, okay, I'll do that. He brings him in from New York, and he brings him in, and they start playing this thing called blues music. And the guy turns to him and says, well, now that I'm the #1 disc jockey in New York, what should we call this? George says, well, I don't know. Call it rock and roll. Hey, you want me to begin on a man like that?
Well, I knew him very, very well. I knew him in the 50s.
George?
With
when he was with Morris. Morris, who said, shut the tape recorder.
And George, I'll tell you now, you want to hear? So you saw George Goldner at another time in his life, and this was when he was a hired hand, and they gave him a job to go run this label. Did you ever see Linda around? Do you know Linda?
I spoke to her a couple of weeks ago.
I see Linda around too. I knew when she was married to Richard, and I've helped her out with some jobs over the past few years too. So Goldner was a key part of everybody's life.
Everybody's life.
52 years.
That was that was the beginning. So he was a key part of everybody's life.
What a gambler!
Gambler! This son of a, let me tell you what this son of a bitch did to me. Now, he says to me when I made this move with Jeff and Ellie in the beginning, I didn't know how to deal with. They didn't know how to deal with it. He says, "Listen, we're gonna put you down as a program director." I said, "Program director for what?" I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. He says, "Well, you got to drive a car for me." I said, "What the hell does that got to do with program director?" He said, "Don't worry." Now we take off for Detroit. We end up in Detroit. And when we get there, he says to me, I've got to talk some business. I need to have you out of the room. I said, that's fine with me. I'd prefer to be out of the room. And he gave me a few dollars. I was a broke kid, so he gave me a few dollars. Now I go and hit the bars, and I know the right thing to say in the bars in Detroit. What's happening?
But you're making $350 a week, and he gives you about 6 or 7 bills, right?
Yes. Now I end up in a couple of bars. I end up in a place. Anyhow, the long and short of that is I end up in a cat house in Detroit. I didn't know it was a cat house. I'm still a naive son of a bitch. I end up in a cat house, and they're taking care of me like I show up 4 days later. 4 days later, he's still waiting for his Lincoln. And when I walk through the door, he's doing this. You know how he does with his tie? With his tie? Always doing it. Mr. Daddy? He's doing it. And you know how he does it? And I'm unshaved, and it's 4 days later. I said, George, how you doing? He says, You're out of the business. You stole my car. He's pressing charges on everything. Oh my God. In and out so quick. In and out so quick. All in 4 weeks.
All in 4 weeks.
You know, I used to do that.
But all you guys left, and Jerry.
And he got so pissed at me because the year after that I was nominated for the
Grammys?
not for the Grammy, the BMI Awards. And I called up Linda. I said, Linda, you want to go? She said, yeah, because I didn't have anybody to take. I said, you go with me. There's no involvement there. Well, he got so upset over that. When he found out, he went through the wall. You're taking my daughter to be? I said, George, she's your daughter. It's only a friendship, so I go with somebody. He went through the wall. He would cry, I'll see you're eliminated from the BMIs. I'll say.
He had some relationship with his wife, too. Like,
Oh.
that was World War VI.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding? Oh.
She was Puerto Rican and wild, and he was crazy. And to be married to him, you required patience and medals. And he would scream at her, and they would scream at each other. The
Forever.
awfulest things.
Forever.
Awfulest thing.
Forever.
It would go on and on and on.
Day on day.
And he gambled.
Gamble. Oh, that's the point I was going to make. When we left Detroit, coming back, he said, listen, I'm not so mad at you anymore. And I'm driving a car, I'm doing about 120. I said, that's nice. I didn't give a shit. I said, that's nice. He says, make a right. Being I hit the brakes, I make a right. He walks into a goddamn track that nobody in the world knows exists. And he walked up and he said, number 7. The guy said, how many tickets? Just keep going till the race gets off. Had a $100 window. And he just $27,000
And the horse.
on the horse.
And whatever.
Oh, the horse came in like 8th
It did.
or whatever.
No, he wasn't meant to win. He was meant to gamble. That's all. He was meant to gamble. Winning was not important.
No.
It was gamble. Getting in there and doing it.
Yeah.
That label all fell apart after everybody left. Jerry and Mike hacked into it, didn't they? Shortly thereafter.
Jerry and Mike closed it down in 66.
I'm allergic to beer.
George wanted for a while after that.
George left before,
He left before?
and they closed it down.
I don't know what he ever did after that. Tried to put a few things together.
He came out to California, he wasn't feeling good, and then,
Died at 52 years old, had a heart attack.
yeah.
And when did you start producing somebody besides the Shangri-Las?
When did I start?
When did you, what was the next act you did after the Shangri-Las?
Next one?
Was there anybody between the Shangri-Las and Vanilla Fudge?
Oh yeah, sure. The Rascals. The Rascals.
Did you do all the early Rascals records? How did that happen, Shadow? How'd you get together with them?
With the Rascals?
Today because this is Searchlight winning. Yes, somebody was
That's another Damon Runyon story.
Go.
All right. At the time, a guy named Fat Frankie was road manager for the Shangri-Las.
It's been a gambling weekend instead of a fishing weekend. I just stayed there and
And
$3,000. I couldn't make it.
anyhow, I'm trying to put the pieces. Fat Frankie was a good friend of mine, and still is. He runs the Heartbreak Inn right now in New York, #1 club. Anyhow, Fat Frankie at the time was a road manager, and there was a lot of good times, yahooing going on between Fat Frankie and the Shangri-Las. Fat Frankie once said to me, I know a group in New Jersey. I didn't want to pay any attention to him. And what happened at that point was that I went out of town for a week or so, and Fat Frankie, I told him, Frank, clean out the penthouse, get that straightened out, whatever. Stay there, but get it cleaned out. When I walked back into town, he was in the penthouse. He was cleaning it, and there was a guy standing up on a on a stool vacuuming in the Venetian blinds with the vacuum on his back. That's how I met Eddie Brigatti from the Rascals. He said, "This is the group I'm telling you about." Meanwhile, he's doing this to him and doing this with a whip, going, "Clean that window, clean that window." And I'm walking through my penthouse going, "What the hell's going on? What the hell is going on here?" Turned out to be Eddie Brigatti. We had a good relationship. At the same time, Ahmed had come to me and Jerry and said, "Better take this off the tape. Take this off the tape." All right, they were trying to move Atlantic from being strictly a black label to a white label. I had come up with one act they turned down. But at this time, I said to them, "Listen, you've got a white act that sings black, and they've got their own soul. Go with it." Of course, at the same time, all right, back up 1 second. When that happened, I went out to New Jersey to see the Rascals, as a courtesy to Frankie, the Fat Frankie. Loved
They
him,
cleaned your apartment.
and they cleaned my apartment. How can I not? Neil Diamond and me and Jeff Barry went out to see them. Neil Diamond said they were absolutely terrible. Jeff Barry said, "I'll have nothing to do with them." And I said, "I like them." But I felt a little shy about that. Now they went on to getting great recognition and showed up at the Barge out in Long Island, to which Phil Spector and everybody showed up. And we're talking about a room maybe the size of this. Me and them stood up on the top of the Barge and drank all night. And they performed Dino and the rest of them. They were a great influence at that time in the market. At that time, they were a great influence. White, black soul music. And that night when it was all over with, which you're about to find out, most people don't know. I sat with the group at about 5 in the morning when it was all over with, when all the limousines had left. And I sat with them and they said, "Where do we go? Columbia's given us such and such. Atlantic has given us such and such." I said, "Go with Atlantic. Go with Ahmed and Jerry, and I'll be in on every," because we had the same building, we had the same offices. I said, "I'll be there every night. I'll show up every night. I can't sign to that. I can't become part of that deal, but I'll be there every night." And we were drinking buddies just like that. And I showed up every night. And me and Eddie Brigatti and Dino and the rest of them, we just hung out and drank just like this. And then we get down to the studio. But Atlantic only gave them 1/3 of what Columbia was willing to give them. But I said, "No, go with Atlantic and go with Sid Bernstein."
Did you make the Good Lovin' record with them?
Was I there?
Did you? Yeah, you made the record with them, yes.
Was I there?
Yeah.
I heard it the other day on radio.
You want me to say something on tape? Watch this. Let me ask you a question. Was I there?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, there's a line in the song on Good Lovin' where he says, "You and me and Leslie, just grooving." Do you know who that is? Okay. Me, obviously, is Eddie Brigatti. Eddie, not Felix, but Eddie Brigatti. Leslie is Leslie West.
Oh, sure. You is you.
Because we used to do that. Most people think that's a female. You and me and Leslie. Just groovy.
And they had a hell of a run too. You stayed with them as a producer.
And stay with him as a producer. I'll deny that claim. Did I stay with him as a friend?
As a friend, yeah. Who was the producer of record?
I think it was, I'm not even sure, I think it was Arif.
Tommy Dowd, Arif, Mardin.
Yeah. They took when I used to walk to the studio door, Eddie used to walk over and climb on me like a little bear. And I would ignore the fact that he had done that. I'd just walk around and he'd hang on like a little bear. His whole body on me. like a little bit, like a little kid. Hello. Climb on me and we just walk around. I didn't know he was there. I go, how's the guitar going?
How did the Vanilla Fudge come along?
That was an accident.
Catherine's boss
All these seem to be accidents.
has a van.
Most things in my career of music are
What
accidents.
happened?
Kid by the name of Brian and myself.
I was brought on by a guy named Shelley Finkel.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know Shelley Finkel?
Flight promoter extraordinaire.
Yeah, David won. Dave and I had to buy breakfast.
Shut the tape.
We won all the money.
Shut the tape.
A couple more things about the Vanilla Fudge.
You want to go next door? Would you mind?
I don't know if it's Seymour Stein.
I don't know if it's true or not. Seymour calls him up. He said, "Would you like to do some songs for Madonna?" I says, "No, because what I'm doing right now is very private." He said, "I just spent the weekend with Phil Spector. He wants to get involved with Madonna, etc., etc." But he also wants to write. He was writing or getting something together for. Give me the black chick. Give me the black chick.
It's not Prince, it's,
Come on, the best singer around. Come on.
oh, you're talking about Dionne Warwick?
No.
Is she the new one?
No. This whole package together. So they came out. Seymour told me the story. They went to the house. They didn't like what was going on. I don't know if it's true or not. But Seymour told me that Phil now takes them and sits them in the bathroom and nails the door shut.
Oh, Jesus.
For 3 days, he tells me. Seymour said, as Seymour said, I sat there for 3 days. They wouldn't let me out. They kept feeding food to the window.
You're dealing with a really crazy. So, anyhow, he's making a record. So we sit down at dinner, and I said, "Well, what are you doing?" It's my birthday.
Phil said this?
Yes, that's it. I said, "But you want me to go? What I'll do is I'll help you make a disc. I'll go to." Talking about the Vanilla Fudge, you had never done anything like that. In fact, the heavy metal thing was just really coming.
No one had. No one had.
How did the kids come to you? Were they playing that kind of music when they came to you? Or?
No, that was an accident. When Shelley Finkel came to me, he said I had retired, and he came to me and said, "I want you to record a group called the Pigeons." And he met me on 8th Avenue, and I said, "Shelley, we'll go out and we'll listen to the group, but I'm not interested." Went out, listened to the group. Very talented, very dynamic. But they were doing grooving, and they were doing rock around the clock. On the way out the door, the organ player, Mark Stein, started to play something that he had heard by Diana Ross, but he had made a mistake. He put it on 33. A song called "Keep Me Hanging On." And he was trying to duplicate that. So I walked back into the room. I said, "Play that again." He looked at me and said, "Why?" I said, "Play it again." He played it again, and we spent the next 48 hours without leaving that room. Get down, keep me hanging on. And from that point on, we developed a style of music, acid, whatever you want to call it, pop rock, whatever you want to call it. For the first time ever, there were songs that went past 3 minutes. There were songs that interwoven, one onto the other, and that changed a little bit.
They were terrific musicians.
They were. Are you kidding? Incredible. Carmine, Timmy Bogart?
Yeah.
My God. In my opinion, and still today, the most, if not the best bass player, maybe the best, but if not the best, the most dramatic bass player of all time. He attacked things like no man ever did. He used to stun me. I used to have to leave the room after watching him play. And Mark did. Carmine on drums. Unreal.
latched onto that, and that was a very big act. And again with Atlantic, had they been signed to Atlantic, but you steered that.
No, I moved it over to Atlantic. I wanted that to go with Atlantic.
That's a good relationship.
With Ahmed and Jerry. Yeah, good.
They were musical hits of records.
Yeah, and they were crazy.
They've been in the studio and they were watching.
Yeah.
You know, the greatest kick for me was when we bought Atlantic in '68. Being partners with those guys for the last 18 years.
Yeah.
Has been more fun.
Really.
How funny they are.
They're crazy men. Ahmed's got a game going on no one else.
I'll tell you an amateur Goldner story.
Yeah. We had some parties. Oh.
I've overheard some of your conversation.
Oh. Yeah.
How did you get involved with New York Dolls? Was that Marty, who's it? Marty Fowl?
Yeah.
I didn't say his name.
Huh.
What did you think when you saw this band?
Nothing.
Were they the Shangri-Las of the,
Oh,
the
no.
70s?
Oh no. Same thing. Again, a friend asked me to do a favor.
Was it Marty?
No. He said, before you quit, I was walking away. I cut two groups at the same time. New York Dolls and the ISIS. At the same time.
When was that? 70s? Early 70s?
Yeah. Yeah.
Presentation of the Man of Mystery. Was it deliberately?
The so-called Shadow?
The so-called Shadow. Was it deliberately created, or you just
No.
kind of loose like that?
It's my nature. It's what I am. I don't plan it, I don't work on it, it's just the way I am.
Does it make people crazy?
Yes.
That bother you?
No, I try to explain it to them, but they don't understand. If I'm dealing with a man that I don't like, if I'm dealing in a studio that I don't like, with a band or a session, if I should turn around and say I'm going to the men's room, walk into the men's room, but the men's room happens to be in Puerto Rico. I tried to explain this to people. When you walk into the studio, you sit down, you got 20, 40 minutes to get it going. You're not organized on a deal, anything, in 20, 40 minutes. After that, everything is BS. Walk away. Let them negotiate. Let them do it. Whatever they want. Anything after that is bullshit.
Up to this point, because as you're going back into it, there'll be other adventures.
No. No.
This is it? These two.
That's it.
Has anything been more satisfying, the most satisfying thing that's happened to you, or most fun, or anything stick out?
It was more fun than making music.
No, of all the things in making music, was there any record, any period of time in there that you were having the best time with?
The greatest satisfaction I got was with Janis Ian.
Which record?
Well, when we cut Society's Child, that to me was the greatest satisfaction.
Where did you find it? How did that go?
She came in because of Johanna Pagoda, an attorney, who I'm sure you know about. She brought Johanna a song, he brought it to me. I had no interest in the lady at that particular moment. When she sang the song, I said, do you believe in that song? She said, yes. I said, we'll cut it. When we cut it, we brought it to Ahmed and Jerry. They had paid for the session. When I brought the song to them on tape, he didn't listen to more than 12 bars. He took it off. He said, no way in the world can we release this record. It took roughly 9 months before I could find a company that would buy that song. Payback Jerry and I'm going to get that straightened out. I get a big kick out of that because that's the only song I think in the history of music that has ever been released where a man has been threatened by the Ku Klux Klan and the Black Panthers all in the same week. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
How electric is that?
How did they threaten me?
Yeah.
You want to see the letters?
No, I believe you. Just because it was played on the radio and somebody captured it?
Nobody would play it on the radio. One radio station played it and they burned down the radio station in Atlanta, Georgia. They burnt it down.
Was it because of the nature of the song that was the most satisfying kind
And
of
the only thing that made it happen was that for some reason, unbeknownst to me, Leonard Bernstein heard the song. He fell in love with it. He was at that time doing those 1 hour specials, education specials for kids. He took her on the show, sat her at the piano, and Leonard Bernstein never moved to the band. He just leaned over the piano and let her play for 1 hour. At that point, Polygram said, we'll take the record. They put it out, and I got threatening letters for the from the Ku Klux Klan or Black Band. I feel I got a merit. Not too many guys can get that shot, get that kind of threat from both sides.
What happened with her? She had another record later on, but
She wrote a song about me.
What song was that?
17.
17? She was 17 when she made Society Shop. She had that shot. What's afterwards?
That's another story.
How Brooks got involved with her? Care to tell it?
No.
Brooks is sorry he ever became a... Sorry he gave up the engineering.
Why?
Because he thinks he's been very much in demand.
But he's doing so good now with the
Off
movies.
and on, he picks up a thing here and there. I guess he's not doing as good as he hoped he would do.
But he's doing so good with the movies
Oh, the movies, yeah.
right now.
But he had some tough times before the movies. I gave him Carol Sager to do it.
Why didn't you call me?
What? You what?
Carol Sager?
I made a couple of records with him.
Should have called me.
Huh?
You should have called me.
I should call you?
Carol Sager.
You were retired. How was I supposed to call you?
That's true.
you
That's true.
were fulfilling your life.
I was doing the shadow.
Not only were you in the shadow in business, you would have retired from the business.
Okay.
Not only couldn't I find you in the business, now I'm going to look for you outside the business where I couldn't find you.
Okay.
I called to no one.
All right.
Okay.
Sad. After the conversation we just had about mutual friends, I'm going to call a shot on this. I'm going to do something in the next 12 months none of these people could ever conceive doing. If nothing else, let that be a lesson to them. It's all survival. It's all music being the mistress.
I agree with that.